One of the most exciting trends shaping the Perth market right now, and that's gentrification. I'm going to unpack the top 5 suburbs that are transforming the fastest and define what gentrification really means in the property context. It's not about new housing estates popping up on the outskirts. It's about the renewal of existing suburbs. These 5 suburbs have a lot in common. They're close to the city. They've got improving infrastructure and amenities. They're seeing new cafes, better schools and fresher demographics moving in, and they have a visible building and renovation boom that's going on, and that's a physical sign of belief and investment into those locations.
Welcome to Perth Property Insider, where you will learn how to grow your wealth and improve your life using Perth property. Our show is brought to you by Investors Edge Real Estate, the highly rated and award-winning property management, sales and buyers agency servicing the whole of Perth. Now, here's your host, Jared Mann.
G'day and welcome back to Perth Property Insider. Today, I'm excited to be diving into a topic I haven't covered, which will be a really interesting one. It's one of the most exciting trends shaping the Perth market right now, and that's gentrification. I'm going to unpack the top 5 suburbs that are transforming the fastest, and these are places where the older homes are being drastically renovated or replaced with stylish new builds, often subdivisions occurring, cafe strips are coming alive. There's a new demographic of buyers moving in that have more money to spend on their houses, more bringing a buzz to the area. I guess gentrification itself is a bit of a buzzword, isn't it? But it's a powerful investment signal for those of us that want a bit of an X factor that's going to drive growth beyond what the trend in the past has been. So it's when a suburb goes from being overlooked, I guess, by a lot of buyers to undervalued and being rediscovered by the young professionals, families and developers who start to see its potential, and that increasing demand leads to above average price growth over the medium term. So certainly not the only factor that you should consider. And when we look at analysing where to invest with our trifecta review, it's not the primary thing that we base our selection on. It's more of an X factor that we put on the top. And if you've got 2 suburbs side by side, they both really check out strongly with our trifecta review, but one of them has an X factor, like the AUKUS project down south, which I covered last week, that are going to affect those south coastal suburbs. Another one here is if it has the gentrification going on, which I'm covering this week, then that's going to sort of really be a bonus to drive demand over that medium to long term. So if you can get into these areas early enough before everyone else catches on, you can ride that next wave of capital growth, and it's going to be very interesting to unpack this. So grab a coffee. This one's going to give you some real on-the-ground insights. So what is gentrification? I touched on it a little bit there. Before we get into the suburbs themselves, let's just take a step back and define what gentrification really means in the property context. It's not about new housing estates popping up on the outskirts. It's about the renewal of existing suburbs. So you'll start to see higher building approval ratios, and that's a big key to how I've done this research. We look at, which areas have got more buildings getting approved compared to the number of existing properties, and that's what the building approval ratio is. And that's because there's more knockdowns, more rebuilds, more infill projects, more major renovations showing up. People are drastically improving or developing property in an area. Other factors that indicate that we've got gentrification going on is a visible shift in the demographics. So higher incomes, more professionals, and better amenities that flow from that. We often see the old shopping strips getting revitalised, and perhaps most importantly, a growing sense of community pride in an area and desirability to live there. So in short, gentrification happens when people start to believe in a suburb again and put their money where their mouth is. And in this episode, I've been using building approval data as a proxy for that physical transformation. And then I've filtered out areas that are dominated by new estates or any new land that's getting created. So I'm really after a transformation on existing established areas. And that's left us with a short list of those that have got the true urban renewal stories going on within Perth at the moment. I've also taken a good look through the list and sort of combined that with my real world experience to, not just be about the data, but about what I'm physically seeing on the ground. So let's go through our first suburb, shall we? Let's start up north in Belga. Now, for decades, Belga has had a bit of a rough reputation. It's part of the triangle of fairly rough suburbs, Gandula, Girraween and Belga. But it's changing, and it has changed a lot already. It was built in the 1960s as a state housing suburb. There's big quarter-acre blocks through there. There's old fibro homes. It's very working class for back then. But fast forward to now, and Belga's landscape is unrecognisable on how it used to be. Everywhere you look, you're seeing 3 or 4 unit developments going up, replacing those old homes with modern townhouses or villas. It's part of what's called the New North Renewal Area, an initiative that's reshaping suburbs like Belga, Girraween and Westminster. So you've got young families and you've got new migrants that are moving in there. Schools are improving and a real mix of cultures that's giving the area new life. And the data backs that up. So Belga's median house price is now around $750, up roughly 17% in the last year, and the rental vacancy rate is just 1.4%. So while Belga might have been overlooked in the past, it's now one of the most active infill markets in Perth, and it's got some serious growth momentum going on there. So not a bad suburb to consider, and God, it's transformed a lot.
Just real quick before we continue on with the episode, are you getting my email updates yet? If you're not, you're missing out on our suburb intelligence reports, which we tailor and prepare for your individual suburbs of interest, showing advanced stats and insights. Must get onto those. And I also send out exclusive invitations to our events, including webinars, sundowners, and workshops. So if you're not getting those, head on over to investorsedge.com.au/join and make sure you're receiving my email updates.
The next suburb on my top 5 list of gentrifying suburbs in Perth is Willagee, the south side comeback, I'm calling it. So heading south to Willagee, it's in the city of Melville. This is one of my favourite gentrification stories because for decades Willagee was full of small post-war homes, many of them government housing stock. But over the last 10 to 15 years, it's been quietly transforming, and the city of Melville's revitalisation plan and rezoning around the area has sparked a new wave of builds, cafes and parks. And we're now seeing more young professionals, renovators and families priced out of Melville and Winthrop moving in, and they're really lifting the area. So prices have surged too. The median is sitting at around 1.14 mil with about 13% growth in the past year. And get this, the rental vacancy rate is just 0.5%, one of the lowest in Perth. So you've got this suburb that used to be working class now turning into one of the south side's most in-demand areas. Interesting to see how much that's changed and is still changing at the moment based on those building approval numbers. Third on our list, and I should mention that the list here is in no particular order. I think all 5 are very good options for what's happening in the suburbs still at the moment. Next up, we've got Bayswater. It's just 6 kilometres from the CBD. It's long been a solid family suburb, but the Metronet upgrades have completely supercharged it. News Bayswater Station's becoming a major rail hub connecting to the airport line and linking through to Allenbrook. And that's turning the whole town centre into a hotbed for redevelopment. You've got big character homes on leafy streets being renovated, new townhouses going up near the station, and a growing cafe culture around Watley Crescent. It's part of the ripple effect where Mount Lawley and Inglewood buyers are priced out, and the next wave of buyers have landed here. So median house price is just over $1 million at $1,007,000. Annual growth has been around 14%, vacancy rate 1.7, so still pretty tight. This is a classic inner ring gentrification in action where location, connectivity, and community are all aligning. So a really great option there. And I think Bayswater is still relatively undervalued. Number 4 on my top 5 list is Maylands, and I'm calling it the creative capital because it probably really needs no introduction. It's Perth's creative, edgy, ever-evolving inner suburb. Once known for its light industrial strip and a bit of a rough edge, Maylands has become one of the city's most vibrant communities. Think small bars, coffee roasters, artisan shops, all set against character homes and the Swan River backdrop. It's been driven by the spillover from Mount Lawley and Highgate, but it's carved out its own identity. And that's the key. Maylands is no longer the cheaper cousin. It's a lifestyle choice in itself. So prices are reflecting that with a median of 1.08 mil, roughly 13% growth in the past year, and still attracting a younger, more affluent crowd looking for culture and convenience. So if you're priced out of Mount Lawley and Highgate, definitely a good option to consider. And I think it's still relatively undervalued when you look at its location and what sort of prices are commanded in the other capital cities around Australia. Very affordable still when I compare. Now, it's a perfect example, I guess, of how gentrification can transform not just property values, but an entire suburb's reputation. And that's what I like so much about Maylands. And if you haven't ever been into the cafe strip there, it's certainly changed a lot over the last few years. Now, number 5 on my list, I sort of included 2 suburbs together because they're almost indistinguishable. It's Carlisle and Lathlane. This is our inner south revival in action. These suburbs are sitting right next to Victoria Park, and they've been riding the wave from the cafe strip over that side. And then we've got Crown Perth and Optus Stadium on the north side. So over the past few years, we've seen the West Coast Eagles precinct redevelopment completely change the local vibe in there. Just go for a drive, and it's amazing to see all the infrastructure that they've put in. Old workers' cottages are being renovated, new townhouses are going up, and there's a growing feel with markets and small businesses all, contributing to that vibe. So the median house prices here are now sitting at $1.5 million, up about 18% in the past year, and vacancy rates are at around 1.4, which is still pretty tight. So while everyone's been talking about Vic Park, these next door suburbs have quietly been catching up, and that's where investors can still find some upside, I think. So the big picture, when you zoom out, these 5 suburbs have a lot in common. They're close to the city. They've got improving infrastructure and amenities. They're seeing new cafes, better schools, and fresher demographics moving in. And they have a visible building and renovation boom that's going on. And that's a physical sign of belief and investment into those locations. So if you're looking for long-term growth potential, these are the types of areas you would want to target. Certainly not the main factor that we use with our suburb selection, but an X factor that can really look to improve your growth potential over the medium to long term. But a quick word of caution, don't get caught chasing hype. You still need to buy the right property with the right zoning, block size, and future potential, and make sure that you don't overpay. And that's where good research, local knowledge make all the difference. So there you have it, Perth's top 5 gentrifying suburbs for 2025, Belga, Willagee, Bayswater, Maylands, and Carlisle. If you'd like a deeper dive into where your property currently sits, reach out and get an appraisal. And I'm only too happy to help. Just head on over to investorsedge.com.au/appraisal. Thanks for tuning in. And if you found this episode valuable, like and share it with friends and post a review if you get a chance. I really appreciate reading all of those. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Just a reminder, the information discussed in this podcast is general in nature
As we don't know your specific situation, you should always seek professional advice before taking any action. For free market reports on your suburbs of interest and other helpful resources to grow your wealth, make sure you join my property investor update at investorsedge.com.au/join. And finally, make sure you're a member of our Perth Property Investment Facebook group to be part of the conversation with other like-minded investors, get help to your questions, and get a feel for what's going on out there in the market. I'll see you in the group.